Hello and welcome to another episode of 1000 Actually Fun Books, where we are trying to find the best of fun books to have eventually a list of 1,000 of them. So this time I'm doing a book called BuyMort, The Grand Opening by Damien Hanson and Joseph Phelps. And normally I hold up a physical copy, but I don't have one because this time I actually listened to an Audible version of this book. So I'll talk about that at the very end. Okay, so this is a dystopian science fiction book that has a lot of satirical elements. It is making fun of the modern internet shopping experience and how things are not always free. When they say they're free, either they have ads to pay for them or, have hidden fees, that kind of stuff. So let me start out with the plot. This is an interesting story, very different from anything else. So the end comes through commerce. Okay, so the idea is Earth is going along just happily minding its own business, and basically an invasion, not an alien invasion to begin with, but an AI, internet mind virus invades. Every human and animal on the planet gets invaded by an interdimensional, multidimensional corporation called, in English, it's called BuyMort. And this thing infects your brain and you cannot get away from it. You constantly have inside your brain advertisements, a shopping center that yells at you anytime you think vaguely about wanting something. A big ad in your vision pops up and tells you to buy it for a certain amount of money. And it's horrible and annoying and brings with it many, many problems. So that is the ultimate background thing going on. But it causes waves of issues and brings with it a wave of aliens of a variety of species. So at first, it seems like the aliens are just there. Before people get infected, they're like, are they coming to conquer? It doesn't seem like they're coming to conquer. They were just coming and waiting for BuyMort to start infecting everybody and becoming Lord of the universe. So what happens is, as soon as BuyMort activates, everything on the planet is suddenly for sale. Everything. Except for sentient beings, it seems like. That's the only exception. So you could look around your house and decide, I'm going to sell that book. BuyMort, what will you get me for that book? And maybe it looks at it and goes, book, common, poor condition. I will give you 10 Mortys for it. And do you want to sell it? And you go, yes. And it zaps it away, and in your virtual account you get 10 Mortys. So everything out there, you could start going out and zapping the weeds out of your lawn. You could go to your neighbor's yard and start zapping away their car, their stuff, right? Because it starts out at the very beginning, nothing is owned by anything according to BuyMort. Everything is available to be sold. So as you can imagine, what kind of chaos that would cause. And it's not just individuals selling other people's stuff. Think of the government, and an employee in the government starts selling off government assets, whether that's, military vehicles or government-owned land or government-owned secrets and papers. Anything anybody gets their hands on, they could just tell this, multi-dimensional corporation, I would like to sell this. And the AI happily sells it for you, and suddenly you acquire money. So this causes the economy of Earth to just collapse. Everybody now is selling to the corporation, not to individual other people or to, a store on Earth. Nothing like that suddenly has any value. in comparison to BuyMort. The aliens who come know what is coming along, so they start making land grabs. Because all you have to do is basically tell BuyMort, this is my land, and pay a certain amount of morties, the BuyMort coins, and then this plot of land is now officially yours. And everything on it is now officially yours. If it wasn't before, it is now, because now you could sell it all or prevent others from selling it because it is now officially yours. So the aliens start coming along and start doing land grabs and stuff grabs, and it's horrible because all the humans are like, what? And, they're behind the curve because they weren't expecting this, didn't know about it, but all the aliens did. Okay, so the plot, that's kind of the world building setup for this. The plot is some random guy in Arizona it starts out, you're thinking this guy is typical trailer park trash, white trash. He does weed, he doesn't really have a job, he kind of a loser kind of guy, a nobody. And it's focused on him and surviving this sudden shopocalypse. It is the apocalypse through commerce, through capitalism run amok. And because, everything ends up falling apart. You no longer have power to your house because somebody sold the telephone poles, outside, going up to the street to your house. You're like, the water companies sold off their pumps because, every man for himself. So anyway, so this guy out in the middle of nowhere in Arizona is kind of just trying to survive. The entire book takes place through 3 to 4, I believe it's 4 days. Just the first 4 days of trying to survive. And there's invasions and pest control and people selling people's stuff. And the poor guy, the first day he loses his home and his car and he has pretty much nothing. And you're just like, this is horrible. But it is him coming from nothing and getting to the point where he's stable and survivable, sort of, almost, maybe, hopefully. The book does kind of end a little bit abruptly. It feels like that this is definitely a series. It is. It's the first book in a series. And it doesn't feel quite finished at the end of the book. A certain trial he gets through. He accomplishes a goal, but it doesn't feel like they're actually in a secure, stable, like, okay, we can survive now for a while. It's only been a couple days, right? Okay. So it doesn't have a plot more than survival and overcoming a bunch of obstacles along the way. So it's a dystopian survival satirical sci-fi book. Okay, so what did I like about it? I did like the way the dystopian flavor happens on this. I kind of enjoy that idea of, okay, the world is ending. How can you prepare for that when you weren't preparing ahead of time? What do you do when you don't have power or water or, stable food supply or any source of income because you've lost everything, and now what do you do to buy anything, right? I liked that. That's kind of fun, a fun fantasy, kind of, touches the part of my heart that wishes I was a prepper that could, was storing a bunch of food in the pantry for the, for the horrible whatever is going to come in the future, right? It's kind of fun that way. So I liked that part. I like the main character. Our main character didn't start out in the first couple of chapters particularly likable. Like, at first I'm kind of like, he's a loser. He seems like not somebody I would like to be friends with kind of person. He does do drugs. He doesn't really work. He doesn't seem like he respects his boss. There's a lot of negatives there. But the more you got to know him, the more likable he was. He did do several things that were just genuinely altruistic. Like, he goes out to try and find some food and basically comes across, like a handful of people that are like hanging out in the desert with nothing. No shelter, no source of food or water. And he's like, come on back to our campground. I mean, it's not great, but it's better than nothing, and we've got a little bit of protection going up and stuff. So come on over. Things like that, where he's repeatedly throughout the story, he is nice to people, even alien people. He tries to be kind to people around him, and I like that about him. He ends up being a likable character that you are rooting for the underdog, and you genuinely are rooting for him. I mean, go him, get the evil corporation kind of thing, and get the evil aliens that are out to destroy humanity. Yeah, so I like him as a character. He's a good guy. Another thing I like, okay, romance in this book. That is something that's not big in this book, but I like how the author handled it. So, the main character, there's a beautiful alien woman, and he likes her. But it's kind of the awkward, I like this person, but I'm a loser, I'm not gonna do anything about it. And maybe she likes him, but she doesn't do anything about it. And kind of those hints going on, but nothing very strong on that. So I kind of like that. And to showcase that he's a nice guy, one of the things he accidentally does is order a prostitute of the same species she is. And this prostitute shows up and he's like, whoa, no, thank you, no thank you. And I liked that because that tells me he respects women. Whereas somebody who'd be just like, oh yeah, I'm going to totally sleep with that person, would show he didn't respect her. So I liked the way the romance was handled in this book. It doesn't have anything more than, flirtation, very mild in this book in any respect. Although there are definitely a lot of, we'll say if it was a movie, it would be rated R level of innuendo and nudity kind of stuff going on. But it's done more in a comedic fashion than an erotic fashion, usually. Like, for example, our main character sees down the dress of an 80-year-old woman, and he's just like, oh, I didn't want to see that. Kind of level of something it's not meant to be erotic. And the alien that he likes, he does see her without her clothes on, for example, but it's more like shock, not like he was intentionally trying to do that, if that makes sense. And that, it's respectful in the sense that, he wasn't attempting to do something that she didn't give him permission to do. And he tells off another character who does say disrespectful things to her. So, anyway, overall, I liked that aspect of it. I thought it was well done. I like the fact that in this book, it's a very clear delineation between good and evil. The bad guys are pretty clearly bad guys. So, like BuyMort, it's a AI. There is no real person there to hate, but you end up loathing this AI interface conglomerate thing. I mean, everything about it is obnoxious and horrifyingly just yuck. And so as a bad guy, it makes for a really good bad guy because you love to hate it, kind of thing. And there are a couple aliens that end up being bad guys. And again, there's nothing redeemable about these handful of bad guys. They're just nasty. And you're like, go get them! So I like that part. I liked the fact that they extended the BuyMort thing to even the animals. And this comes into play in this. So, like, the dog can order things and sell things on BuyMort. It's kind of ridiculous, and it's not like he has, conscious thoughts about this. It just ends up happening, and it's just kind of a fun, silly thing. I like that part. Okay. And my final thing is I liked how it called out so many of the annoyances that we have in our modern internet shopping experience that you're like, this is just so frustrating and irritating, but it's just you got to put up with it. Things like all the pop-up ads that come up just as browsing the internet, or like doing games on your phone where you have to put up with the ads or you have to pay something to make the ads go away. It's just part of our current modern culture that you just deal with it. And this is part of what they call out as just the evil of this corporation. And beyond that, there's the hidden fees. Like he gets a phone, it's the alien equivalent of a smartphone, and he wants to take a picture with it. So he holds it up, like, can I take a picture? Okay, I can take a picture. So he takes a picture and then immediately finds out that he has to pay like $500 a month, 500 Mortys a month for holding pictures. Now he doesn't know that until after he's taken the picture. And that's a lot of the kind of fees that end up happening. He's like, I want to do this thing. And they're like, here, this is how much it'll cost you. And then afterwards he finds out that no, it's a whole bunch more than that. And that's just the way the corporation works. Got to nickel and dime you for everything that possibly can happen. And it's just a level of frustration going on there that you could totally relate to. Okay, dislikes. Okay, this has heavy gore. It really does. Heavy, graphically described gore. So our main character has all sorts of horrible things happen to him physically. He has something that helps him recover, but things like, he loses his finger and loses his legs and his intestines spill out and a whole bunch more, again, graphically illustrated. Not just with him, our main character, but a lot of the aliens. He fights a lot of variety of aliens with lots of gory results of this. Ichor going everywhere. And you're like, ooh, it's kind of just gross. And it's very graphically described, Oh, look, the giant interdimensional scorpion diarrhea that he, paws through to get something. I mean, this is kind of gross, right? It's gory and graphic, and I didn't really love that. I really didn't. The language is just by itself, it would have given it a rated R rating. Okay, lots of language in this, of all varieties, and not just like bad words. Again, it's like creatively gross descriptions on some things. So language, pretty bad. Drug use. So our main character likes his weed, and another character and he together do drugs, hard drugs, and another character, like the three main characters of the park, are just druggies. And again, this is one of those things that I could have done without. It's just kind of gross, I think. But it's there, and so yes. The religious aspect, so there is the Church of BuyMort. Yes, there is worshipping the grand awesomeness that is BuyMort, the holy tithe that it takes from you as you become an affiliate. And you're like, oh, wow, okay. So I did not like the religious aspect of that. It felt a little bit, again, this is meant to be satirical, but I find that a little uncomfortable, the way it was described. Not because I have a problem with the religion of BuyMort, but because it feels a little bit pointed toward other religions, real religions, in ways that I don't agree with. So it might be that the authors are anti-religion. That's how it felt to me. That even though they're using it in this very specific context, that it's kind of meant to be pointed at real religion, and I don't like that when books do that. So that's something that I didn't like. And my final not liking is some of the shopping stuff actually gave me a little bit of anxiety, because I'm like, oh my goodness, person, you need to sell something, because, if you don't do it until it's too late, somebody else will sell it. And oh my goodness, you need to buy this thing or don't buy that thing. I mean, like, I'm not agreeing with their shopping choices, and it's kind of like, ugh. And that is kind of like, a backseat driver on somebody's shopping, and you're like, make that choice, don't make that choice, ah! And there was a little bit of, it made me just a little bit, like I said, anxiety, like I'm feeling, if I myself was in that area, that I'm like, oh my goodness, they missed out on this huge $1 million worth of thing, billions of dollars, and you just kind of ignored it because he wasn't paying attention, and it's like, and anyway, yes. So if you have difficulty with other the way they deal with money, you might find some problems with this on how the choices that they make for dealing with money, because you could be like, that was a poor choice, make a different choice, and obviously you can't do anything about that. Okay, overall, I do give this a thumbs up. I give it a recommendation, but the warnings for the things I dislike there, the language, the gore, the drugs, that kind of stuff in this story, just, if that stuff's going to bother you, skip this book. I felt like it kind of had a similar flavor to Dungeon Crawler Carl, even though really, the details are different. It's a different alien race with different goals and different AI systems and everything, but it had a lot of that same flavor. So if you like Dungeon Crawler Carl, you'd probably like BuyMort, and vice versa. You'd probably, find them similar enough in tone to really like both, if you like one or the other. Anyway, I overall did like it. I kind of really want to read another book in this series. So I ended up doing it in an Audible form. It was narrated by Wayne Mitchell, and he did an excellent job. The only thing that I will say about this is sometimes for the non-human characters, it can be a little bit hard to understand what they're saying. Like they've got something called Hobbs, and they speak kind of rough English, not very good English. And so when you're listening to it, as he has a really gruff, gravelly voice trying to give these critters a voice that's very distinct, with broken English and stuff, it can be kind of hard to understand. But overall, the author, the narrator rather, did a fantastic job with all the different voices, and you really got, I really liked the way he did it. So he did a good job. So if you like listening to books, this would be a good one to listen to, I think. It's about like 15 to 16 hours to listen to. I had a very long car ride, a couple days worth of driving, so that's how I enjoyed this book. So overall, I give it a thumbs up, and it's going to go on my recommendation for fun book list. I think it was fun despite some of the drawbacks. All right, on to part 2. I'm going to say I really want to do another mystery. So I haven't really done a good solid mystery since the very first book, the Agatha Christie book. I've tried to do one, the number 1 Ladies Detective Agency, but I don't really consider that a good mystery book. It was more historical fiction. So I'm going to try another one. So my next one I'm going to try is the Bangalore Detectives Club, and this is supposed to be a whodunit based in colonial India. So I think like the 1920s is what it sounds like. So I thought that would be fun to do completely different mystery next. So I hope that you would join me in finding out whether that was any good or not. And thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy your BuyMort experience.